Are we live, sir? Okay. Shrishti, your sound is not, you have not shared the sound.
Good morning, everyone. We are live on the YouTube. We can start.
So, should we start?
Recording in progress.
Dinesh sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Vikrant sir has joined.
I don't think so. Not yet.
Not
I'll just check.
Chinmay, please wait for some time.
Vikrant?
A very good morning to one and all. On behalf of IEEE Bombay Section, premier academic institutes, and professional organizations, I, Kirti Kiraskar,
And I, Chinmay Ranade.
welcome you all to the IEEE Entrepreneurship Bootcamp 2021 A4.
The entrepreneur is defined as someone who has the ability and desire to establish, administer, and succeed in a startup venture along with the risk entitled to it. This comprehensive 6-day program aims to kindle the entrepreneurship spark in the minds of young budding professionals. Your success depends on your mindset, and this bootcamp is structured to make you think and analyze like an entrepreneur. With an outstanding response from the previous 3 days, We are all very excited to present day 4 of the IEEE Entrepreneurship Bootcamp to you all.
Without any further delay, let's commence with today's session. The schedule for the day is as follows. We begin with a session on the topic business model by Mr. Vikrant Potnis, followed by the activity of the day, accompanied by a fireside chat by Mr. Potnis. A link of the feedback form will be circulated at the end of today's session, which is mandatory for all to fill. After submission of this feedback form, you will be awarded 10 points. A total score of 40 or more points out of 60 points will make you eligible for the certificate of the bootcamp. We also have in store an IEEE quiz. The first person with maximum score will be declared as the winner and will be awarded with exciting prizes.
Let us now start a day with the very first session titled Business Model by Mr. Vikrant Potnis. Mr. Potnis brings a rich experience in finance and business training. He is the director at Fortemagna Advisors Private Limited, which focuses on investment banking, assists startups in their capital raising journey, builds capability for entrepreneurs to understand capital raising through a curriculum-based approach. He's a co-founder of FundEnable. FundEnable is a technology platform that assists entrepreneurs to actualize fundraising goals by providing them with online learning modules on technicalities of capital raising, tools and templates, and qualified IB advice. He's also a visiting faculty at the prestigious SPGen Institute of Management and Research for SYB, Start Your Business program. He has also worked as an investment banking junior analyst at JP Morgan. Once again, a very warm welcome, sir. We are very glad you could make it today to mentor and guide the attendees. Sir, I now request you to please deliver the session. Over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Chinmay and Ketki, for the introduction. I will now start sharing my screen. So if you can give me access to. Great. So guys, today's topic is a very, very interesting topic. When Kiran Talile sir suggested this topic that we should do it and we were brainstorming around it, I was very excited because as students venturing into startup and venturing into entrepreneurship, this whole concept of business model is very, very critical. Lot of times what happens is we as students consider, and I was also an engineering student 10 years back, and we as students consider our projects which we make for engineering as our businesses. But a lot of times these projects might not be monetizable. What do I mean by monetizable? They might not make money for you, right? These might be amazing ideas. But the question that one needs to ask is that will someone pay to buy this product or service which you are offering, right? And because of this entire gap between I would say the projects that we are building or the ideas that we have on the table and the potential to make revenue out of it, lot of companies actually fail, right? A lot of students who venture into entrepreneurship fail. And let's have a look at what is happening globally with some numbers, right? So do you know that 90% of startups, 90% of new businesses which are created fail, and they fail in the initial year itself? So while there is a lot of boom and while there is a lot of euphoria around the whole startup ecosystem, one has to also understand the realities of it. And this is not an India specific number. This is a global number that more than 90% of startups fail, and they fail in their first year itself, right? And why do they fail? There are multiple reasons of failure. When we run incubation centers and we see a trend, we see trends like co-founders fight. So two students, two very good friends during engineering kind of created a project, converted that into business. But being friends and running a business are two different things. And therefore, maybe through the journey, they don't, gel along well. They don't kind of think on the same lines, and therefore they fight, and the business fails actually because of the fight between the two co-founders. Team is very critical point, that people are not able to put together a team. As an entrepreneur, the biggest skill set that one has to bring to the table is how do I create a team, because only with one person you can't do anything. Running a business is not a one man's affair, right? You have to have a team, and a lot of times people are not able to put together a team, and therefore they fail. No customers, very big problem. I have built a product but I don't have customers. The product itself is very weak, or the service that you are bringing to the table is not very strong, is not very exciting, does not have a great, what we call as value proposition, is not solving a major pain point of people in the market. The market for which you are building the product in itself is very small. You don't have enough money to keep running the business. Obviously, when you start a business, it's not that it's going to generate money from day one, right? There is going to be a buffer period where you start your venture, you start building the product, you start putting together the team, you start doing the marketing, and then your business starts generating revenue, generating money. And in this initial stage, if you don't have enough funding to survive, sustain this initial stage, obviously you are going to die as a business. Competition, fights with investors, some legal issues, and all of these become the problems or reasons why a startup fails, why a student startup fails in the initial 1 year. But the biggest problem that we have figured out is the articulation problem. What is the articulation problem? That I am not able to kind of articulate what is my business about. How should I build it? What would be the cost? Deep thinking about the business brings out a lot of problems. We are running the business on a day-to-day basis. That today I woke up, I feel this is the priority, I am actually doing that. But that's not how you build a long-term business, right? You have to think about how will you make revenue, how will you put together the team, what are the costs that are involved, how big is the market. So there are multiple elements, and when we put all these elements together, what we get is called as a business model, which we are going to discuss in the later half of the session, right? So guys, you might be the next Facebook. Your idea, your business might be the next Facebook. But unless you can articulate your idea, put it on paper, right? You have all the things in your mind, but unless you articulate it, you put it on paper, the probability of success is very, very low. And that is where the first and foremost thing that one has to do is to think through the various key elements of the business, right? There are various questions. There are some 8 or 10 very important questions that one has to ask about the business. And only when you find answers to those questions, you can build your business very well. What are those questions? I'm going to talk about it, in some time, right? So creating a very quick snapshot of your business, creating a very quick, I would say, a picture of what your business is going to be all about becomes very important. And that is precisely what we call as business models, right? Now, before we jump into the business model, guys, I want to put ahead very interesting facts, right? And these facts become very important and form the base of the business model, the starting point of the business model, right? And this very important fact is that 72% of the new products and services which are launched in the market need not be startups. Anyone, any company that launches any new products or services in the market, 72% of them fail on delivering on customer expectations. So 7 out of 10 products which are launched in the market, guys, 7 out of 10 products which are launched in the market actually fail to deliver on the customer expectation, actually fail to deliver on what customer is wanting out of those products and services. And what do I mean by that? You would have heard and you would have seen a lot of products in the market, but they just don't fulfill your expectations. And one such example that we saw long back in the time now, during somewhere around the World Cup, the Cricket World Cup, when Pepsi, a big brand like Pepsi, launched a product called Pepsi Blue, right? So Pepsi Blue was a product which was launched in the market by this large company called Pepsi, and the product completely failed in the Indian market. People said, oh, you know what, I feel like I'm drinking kerosene, right? That is the kind of feeling. The color gives me a feeling that I'm drinking kerosene. The taste, everything was the same, just that the color was blue, and that was because they wanted to actually ride on the whole World Cup supporting India kind of a journey with the blue color. But the product completely failed. Now, Pepsi, can you imagine a large company like Pepsi who understands beverage market, right? Who understands beverage market more than today Pepsi and Coke? They are the largest company, and if one has to understand the pulse of the market, these are the companies that actually know it very well. But still, large corporate, large company like Pepsi also failed when it comes to launching the product in the market, right? And they had done a lot of surveys to understand, oh, will this product work? Will this product be successful? All of that had happened. But still, Pepsi actually failed. And this product, the initial batch which was generated, the initial batch which was actually created by Pepsi, did not even, they were not even able to sell that initial batch which Pepsi had created in the country. And they failed big time. Imagine, the point is, imagine if a large company can fail when they launch products. How large is the probability of a startup, a student startup failing when they launch a new product, right? The probability is extremely large. So my question is, and I don't know, Chinmay and Kikki, if we are allowed to kind of unmute and answer the question and interact with the audience. But the question that I'm going to ask is that how does one, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a startup, if you are a person who has a great idea, who is wanting to launch a product in the market, how do you ensure? What is the way to ensure that the product will not fail or will find buyers in the market or will find customers in the market? What is the way in which one goes about ensuring? Or take up your project, you would have made some project during engineering. How do you make sure that whatever you are building as a technology, right, will be adopted by people and people will pay for it? What is the way? How does one go about it? And this is a very practical question and a starting point for launching the business. So any idea, anyone wants to kind of just discuss, brainstorm? Anyone? You can also, if the chat window is open, you can put it on the chat, or you can actually talk about it. It's a very basic question to all you intelligent people here, right? That if I want to launch a product, if I'm launching a technology, if I'm launching a product, how do I make sure that that will be used by people, that will be actually adopted by people, that it will find customers? What is the way to think about it? What is the way to go ahead around that? Anyone? So Milind is mentioning that take the idea to the market, do a survey with the target customers, right? By taking the opinions of people from known surroundings. First step is connecting with the end user. The basic thing I would do is I would give a trial version of the product and collect feedback, right? Yes. Anyone?
So by taking experience of a well business person.
Okay, experience or opinion of people, opinion of known people from the surroundings, feedback, survey. These are the things that one would do. But do you think, guys, a company like Pepsi did not do that? Do you think when Nano was launched, do you think people did not do the feedback around that? Still, these products fail, and still these companies fail, right? So what you are mentioning, all of you, in terms of surveys, in terms of feedback, is slightly old age way of thinking, right? So when large corporates used to run businesses from 90s to 2000, 2005, this was the approach that was adopted by people to test whether my product is going to work or not. And what was the approach? The approach was build a product, come up with a product idea, okay? Take that product to the market and do surveys that, okay, will this sell? Will this not sell? What will sell, etc. All of this was actually inverted post 2005 when new startups came up with this thought as to how does one make sure that the products are successful in the market. And why that is important, because like we mentioned, is 7 out of 10 customers don't really care about the products that are launched in the market, and life is too short for us to build something which nobody wants. You're going to spend your years on your projects or entrepreneurship startups. Why would you spend time on something that nobody wants? And therefore we have to figure out a way to first see if whatever we are building is going to be bought or not. How do we solve this problem? This problem is solved by first thinking about customers and only thinking about customers when we start a business. So the first rule of the business model, or the very first thing when you have to think about starting a business, when you have to think about starting something, is think customers. What were people doing so far and what was leading to failure? They were first thinking product. Even when you start and I did that the same thing. When I did my engineering final year project, I first thought about product. कि मैं कौन सा product बनाऊं? Which product should I make? Which technology should I make? Which is the new technology that I should imbibe into my, idea, right? And that was my business idea also initially, right? What I did not consider at all in my business model was thinking about customers, right? Forget about everything. Forget about technology. Forget about your project. Forget about the product idea that you have. First, think about the customer segment. And when we think about the customer segment and build products for them, this approach is called as the customer inspired innovation. Currently, the approach that we are taking is an innovator inspired innovation or an entrepreneur inspired innovation, which means I think that this is the product which I should make and I make an innovation, right? Always remember, technology is a way to solve the problem of the people, right? We have to leverage technology to solve the problem of the people. And when we solve some problem, people will pay, right? And this approach is called as customer inspired innovation. So what was the earlier approach, the old approach that we saw? We created a product or a service. We created a technology. We created a project. And now we took that project to the customer and checked with them, hey, do you like this? Fill a survey, use it, give you samples. What is it that you want? Let me know. So the approach that we made was, we created a product first. As an entrepreneur, as an innovator, as a student, we created the product, and then we went to the customer to kind of ask them that, hey, do you like the product? The approach that I am talking about is, do not first think about the product at all. Think about the customer segment and listen to their challenges, listen to their problems, listen to what is it that they are cribbing about, right? And then go and build a product or a service, then go and build a technology that can address that particular challenge, right? And this approach, which is first think about customer and then build product, versus first build product and then take it to the customer, this reversed approach is called as the customer inspired innovation. And customer inspired innovation is the very fundamental first element of your business model. When you think, always remember, when you think business, think customer. The problem, the challenge that comes up is when we think business, if we start thinking product, the probability of failure will increase. I'll give you a very good example. Lot of us were cribbing, were crying about, you know, travel, right? Commuting was a major problem. Every one of us were cribbing about commuting. People who owned cars were also cribbing about commuting. That, array, I don't get parking. Parking is such a problem. Traveling in local trains is such a big problem. It is so crowded. Even if I have my own car, driving on the road, if you are in a metro where there is lot of traffic, is a problem. Okay, if you want to go for a cab, you have to go on the road, spend half an hour in pleading a cab owner that, hey, why don't you take me to that location? And even if he agrees, the cabs are not very good, they are not air conditioned, they are stinking, the covers are not well. So the entire lot of us for years together were cribbing, were crying about commuting. If you are living in a crowded metro in India, the biggest problem that people had was commuting from their home to their colleges or to their work location or whatever it is. Few students in IIT Bombay figured out that, oh, this is great. This problem is actually solved by technology abroad. Why don't we create a technology platform that can address this problem? And that is how today we see a successful company called as Ola. Did they say that, okay, let me make a cab aggregator? They did not start with the product. They saw that when so many people are actually cribbing about a particular problem, they created an opportunity for it. So the best way to find business ideas is when people are facing problems, people are facing challenges about something or the other. Always remember, there is an opportunity to create a problem. Keep the best thing that one needs to do to create a business model is simple: keeping your eyes and ears open. Whenever you see inefficiencies, wherever you see problems being faced on a daily basis, whenever you see that a particular segment is unorganized, all these are areas which are opportunities. And now we have to build a layer of technology and product on top of it to actually, to actually release the pain, to actually create a gain for the customer by providing this particular solution using technology, right? And there are so many examples of this, guys, around us, of successful businesses which have followed this approach of only talking about customers. You are a student community. All of you know what are the challenges of students, pick up those challenges and find a solution for that, create a technology solution for that, and you will find buyers, right? You will find buyers for it, right? The recent COVID phenomenon has been actually very interesting from launching of new ideas. Why? Because customers realize that they have certain unique problems, right? Simple things, telemedication, simple ideas such as delivering to home. All of this have taken, and these are very simple ideas. Do you think that the technology that they've created is like something which is, rocket science? These are even the technology is very simple to address this problem. And therefore, guys, the first part which I wanted to focus on is change the approach of thinking if you have to launch a business. Look at customers, identify their problems, and figure out how technology can solve those problems, rather than building a technology product and then taking it to the customer and doing surveys that, why will you use this? Is this good for you, right? If you are building products using customer inspired innovation, invariably the customers will use it and the customers will pay for it. I'm going to take a quick 5 to 10 seconds pause here to see if you have any questions, if there are any questions around whatever we have discussed so far. Anyone with any questions, any ideas, anything that you want to discuss? any project that you have made or business idea that you have made, and you want to talk about it, that how it is solving a particular problem of the customer, happy to kind of listen to it, and it would be great if you can share your ideas as well. So anyone wants to go, don't feel shy at all. This is an opportunity to kind of validate our business ideas. So anyone wants to go ahead, please, please shoot. Anyone? Okay. So let me ask you one question. Okay. Any problem that you have identified recently that you feel can be a very good business idea? Anything that you have identified as a challenge faced by customers or by people, right? In the recent past or recently, you feel that this is a trend that I'm seeing, and this can be a very good opportunity. This can be a very good idea. Anything that comes to your mind? Anyone with anything that comes to your mind? Okay, let me see. There is a chat. Climate change. Great, Yash. So, Yash, can you actually unmute and talk about it a bit? What do you mean by, what is it that you are feeling when it comes to this whole opportunity? How? So climate change is a phenomenon. But now we as entrepreneurs, see, entrepreneurs is a very specific creed. The blood is very different. Why? Because in everything you have to figure out, okay, this is a trend, but everything you have to figure out, how do we actually make revenue out of it? How do we monetize it, right? So is there a way this climate change phenomenon is happening, but is there a way you can monetize the customers because of this phenomenon? Any idea, Yash? Can you talk about it? Anything that comes to your mind?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So I was thinking that we could focus more on renewable energy sources, like selling solar panels, because now everybody is talking about it and is aware about that. So, that could be an opportunity. We could also tie up with governments. So to create our own solar plants and stuff. So it's not, it's not a full-fledged idea, just thought about it. I just thought about it.
Sure. So, use of fossils for, energy requirements, all of that is contributing towards climate change, contributing towards temperature rise, and possibly customers are choosing more, I would say, sustainable ways of living, which will contribute lesser and lesser to the rise in the temperature. And to leverage on such choices, can we actually utilize, or can we actually make certain products that can actually be adopted by people very, very fast? So very good, Yash, right? Any one or two more ideas like this that you can?
Good morning, sir. Nagananda here.
Yes,
and,
sir.
I personally feel there are two issues because of the pandemic factor,
Yes.
being at home, and a lot of exposure to the screen viewing. So, taking care of the eyes and how to ensure that the radiations of the screen, I think they should modify the mobiles now to reduce, that kind of technology or that kind of thing we should work on that kind of profile.
Very interesting.
Reducing the, long hours of seeing also should not at a very close distance. TV, what happens, there is a minimum distance you have to sit on. But when you have your mobile with you, you're working on your mobile like the way I'm doing now presently. You have to have close quarters, and those PPTs that you show, I have to really enlarge them or really strain myself to see it. So this kind of issues are coming up. That is point one. And second, I feel is a kind of mental health, because we are all in the same exposure, no? 10 by 10 का room में इधर से देखो तो 10 feet उधर से देखो तो 10 feet इधर. We are not exposed to horizon. We are not exposed to so that kind of vitamin D and that kind of exposure and the effect it has on the mental health. is yet to be desired actually. Maybe at a longer time we will come to know what could be the side effects of the pandemic. The positive aspects we are knowing, but it will also have a negative effect on the eyes of children. Small children may be getting specs now very soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they are exposed to this radiation right from morning 9 o'clock till evening 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And then they have to do their homework also seeing the mobile only.
Yeah.
So, I personally feel that this area would be where we require some, it has its own problems, and we can think a little more and diversify and try to think of how these problems can be integrated with technology and bring more comfort to the customer.
Definitely. So very, very good. Again, absolutely bang on problem. And one example that you have given is that how do we figure out this is a problem and can we create a solution for it, right? Now,
Yes.
in both the cases that we discuss right now and examples that you volunteered to kind of discuss, the problem has been identified. Now, all that we have to do is quickly get on to finding a solution and then tie up with people, right? And a lot of times customers don't tell you problems straight away, right? You have to, these are problems, but like Ola example, they may not be cribbing about the problem, right? But they are facing certain challenges and they don't know the solution for that, and that is what innovator has to do. And one example of that is why was there a need? Anyone knows why did we shift from the keypad on our phones to touch screen? Why did we actually go? It was so beautiful, right? Keypads, we were using it, texting and all was so easy, etc., etc. Why was there a need for us to shift from keypads to, one of the primary reasons to shift from keypads to to touch screen, especially on mobile phones? Any idea why? Was it just because it's a good user experience? Was it just because of that, or was there some reason behind it? Anyone wants?
Has it got to do with some ergonomic features?
Not really, but one phenomenon that actually led to its deep adoption. Just think about it. Very important feature. You know what led to that? I'm sure all of you were using keypads and then moved to touch screens, right?
Over frequent use of keypad, the letters used to wipe out.
Maybe over a period of time, but we used to change our phones by then very frequently, 1.5 years, and till that time it used to stay. But the biggest problem that customers were facing was that as we started consuming media on our phones, as we started consuming videos and all these things on our phones, what happened was the size of the screen started increasing. And the size of the screen started increasing, and below that now you have to fix your keypad, right? What happened was when you started putting your phone, the phone started becoming bulkier. They started becoming bigger because screen started, you wanted to watch video. Now you can't watch a video on a very small, and it used to happen, if you remember, that 6600s, etc., used to have a very small screen and you have to watch a video on that. But as people wanted to watch a video on, imagine watching this webinar on a screen like that, right? So as we started watching more and consuming more and more media, because of the keypad, the phone became bulkier, and people started complaining that phone is becoming bulkier, heavier. When you put in the pocket, it is actually peeping out of your pocket. They did not know a solution for it, right? People were cribbing, and that is where innovation comes into picture, right? It's not only identifying the problems of the people, right? So people were saying that, hey, the phone is becoming bulkier, and my screen is very small. I want to consume more content. This is where the touchscreen technology got adopted on our phones. So touchscreen technology was already there. It's not that mobile phones led to touchscreen technology. The technology was there. But to solve a problem of bulkier phones and giving larger screen to consume more video content, touchscreen had to be adopted, and touchscreen got adopted on the mobile, right? So, like it is, Henry Ford once mentioned, right, and this is a very famous statement that what people knew was they wanted to travel from one place to another faster, right? And if I would have asked them a simple question, ki boss, what do you want? They would have told me that I want faster horses, right? So what Henry Ford did was he understood the problem, but he created an innovation to solve that problem, right? If you cannot ask, when I say customer inspired innovation is not about asking people कि अरे आपको कौन सा product चाहिए, नहीं. Customer inspired innovation is about what is your problem. Finding a technology and creating a product to solve that problem is the job of the innovator, right? But the problems have to come from customers, right? And always remember, guys, there are two types of businesses. Okay, and this is what one of my mentors told me when I was learning about businesses and intrigued about businesses, is that there are two types of businesses, guys. There is a vitamin business and there is a painkiller business. Now, what is a vitamin business? What is a vitamin product or a painkiller product, right? A vitamin business or a painkiller business. So what is a vitamin product? A vitamin product is a good to have product. All of us know that vitamin D is important for us, but how many of us started off consciously consuming maybe a tablet of vitamin D, or consciously, spending some time out in the sun with light clothes, soaking into the sun? None of us. Why did we not do that? Because of not consuming that today, आज मेरे दिन में कोई change नहीं आया. Maybe 10 years later, I will have brittle bones and all of that. But today, I can still stand in front of you and deliver this session. But what if before coming for the session, I would have slipped in the bathroom, say, and I would have fractured my bone? One thing that I would require, and I would call up someone and say that कहीं पे भी हो, सब कुछ छोड़ के मुझे एक पेन किलर की गोली दिलाओ. और वो पेन किलर की गोली जो वो आदमी मांग रहा है उसको पैसा दे दो, पर वो अभी के अभी मुझे दवाई पेन किलर की आप लेके आओ. कुछ भी पैसा देने के लिए मैं तैयार हूं, और मुझे वो अभी चाहिए. Products that we use or businesses also fall into these two categories, guys. There is a vitamin business which is a good to have business. हाँ चलो देख लेंगे. Maybe you can slightly push the buying. You can slightly say, okay, I don't possibly need it right now. Maybe 2 months down the line, I'll think about it, right? Whereas a painkiller product is what you would want right now, right? All the vitamin businesses through the COVID struggled big time, right? All your luxury items, good to have items struggled big time. All your painkiller kind of businesses boomed big time during COVID, right? So when you are thinking about the customer problem and when you are building your business model, also ask this question, that am I building a vitamin business or am I building a painkiller business? Will I have to push the vitamin to the consumers by calling them up, by telling them, sir, le lo, ye aapke liye acha hai? Or will I be getting calls from the customers one after the other saying that, boss, where is the product? Here is the money. Please deliver the product. Why are you not delivering? How soon will you deliver? Do you want more money? I can actually give you more money to deliver it right away. So think about this. Business is a very complicated thing, guys. It is not just about अरे मैंने कुछ product बनाया और वो बेचा. नहीं. Is that product solving the customer pain point? Is that a painkiller business? Will I make money? How much will I make money? And all of these become the elements of our business model, right? So two things that we've learned so far is, whenever you start creating a business model or whenever you think about business, always remember, think customers. Do not jump on to creating products. First, spend enough and more time on understanding problems of the customers and second is, ask this question: is what you are building, is it a vitamin build business or is it a painkiller business? Why do we need to make more and more painkiller? Obviously, if you want to make more money, you have to make painkiller businesses, right? Imagine, like, why is pharma in true sense such a big business, right? Why is it such a large business? Because one molecule, if it gets discovered, one molecule, if it solves a big pain point, it becomes a $1 billion opportunity. And I always talk about this to my students in MBA, that over the next 15 to 20 years, if you want to make money, just do not do anything. Just invest in top 5 to 10 pharma companies of the country. It is a no-brainer. I can guarantee my life that if you even invest whatever small amount in top 5 or 10 pharma companies in the country for the next 10 to 15 years, you will not have to work. That is the kind of wealth that you will create, because it is so obvious, right? Our lifestyle is changing, our food habits are changing, our the screen time, all of this is contributing to stress. What is going to happen? At a point in time, people are going to need more and more and more and more and more and more medicines. And who are going to supply us these medicines? These pharma companies. So it is absolutely a no-brainer that if we start investing whatever small amount in pharma companies and keep doing that consistently, I can bet my life on this. You will make enough money to support your life for the rest, whatever, retire at 40, as people call it, right? So why is that? Because it's a painkiller business, because it is a business that people want, right? Through the COVID, that whole whatever zinc COVID, right? People were like, "Arey boss, abhi chahiye." So think about it, right? When I say painkiller business, I'm not saying that start a pharma company. I'm saying within every sector, there are certain areas which are painkillers, and we have to address on that, right? We have to focus on that. I'm going to again pause here for maybe before moving to the next step. I'm going to pause here to see if there are any comments, if there are any more ideas, you want to kind of talk about. Yeah, so Chinmay, you mentioned medical-based startups. So can you elaborate? What do you mean? What exactly?
So, reiterating the points that you made, sir, about the vitamin and the painkiller businesses, sir, and the things that you spoke about the pharma companies, sir, as we know, sir, a country right now we are pretty young, as in like majority of the population is pretty young. However, going forward 15 to 20 or maybe 30 years into the future, this huge block of our demographics, more than 50% of our population would be aged. And we see this happening in Europe and in the West, that you have an aging population, and sometimes your healthcare systems aren't able to unable to deal with that huge load of population who have medical issues. You need lots of things. You need medicines. You need like daily help for those elderly people. So what I feel is we already have many medium based apps in our country on which are in this sector. However, to cater to that huge scale of millions and millions of old people, I think we can have something pretty big on a big scale, which is more broader. Like it can connect. It can have many databases based on what uh, as in what problems you have, and the medicines that you have. It can link up with your local hospital. So that's basically my rough ideas.
Totally, totally. So you will have to kind of articulate it and create a business idea out of it. That what, right? See, seeing an opportunity is one thing. All of us see so many opportunities, right? Creating what entrepreneur. So I'll tell you the journey, right? Opportunity spotting is the first thing which you have done. Say, the population is going to be more towards geriatric as we move over the next 15-20 years, and this can be, they will need some help, right? This is an opportunity. An innovator creates a solution to address that opportunity, right? I leverage technology, I use the right technology and create a solution. And an entrepreneur makes money from that solution, right? So opportunity, solution, and monetizing that solution are the three stages that one has to go through if you have to become a successful entrepreneur. So a successful entrepreneur is also a successful innovator, but a successful innovator may not always be successful entrepreneurs, right? For example, our project, the final year BTech project, right? Now, what did we do about it? Now, we were innovators. We created nice project, prototype, all of that. But with that project, we were not able to monetize that, and therefore we were not successful entrepreneurs back then during our engineering, right? So, and that's why there is a difference. There are two different divisions within an institute. One is the R&D department, and one is the incubator, right? The R&D department's job is to actually create innovative products, but the incubator's job is one level ahead of R&D department, that these innovations can we make money, right? So in the R&D division you might make flying cars, right? But in the incubator you can't just put up that flying car and say, "Arey wah, 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 I've created flying car." What will the incubator check is that ये आपने flying car बेचा क्या किसी को, तो आप incubator में रहने के actually you have the caliber for it. Yeah, you can be in the R&D, create a flying car, but if you have to be an entrepreneur in the incubator, question will ask that have you made money out of it? Did you make money out of the flying car? And that's the difference when it comes to entrepreneurs and innovators, right? Obviously, Talele sir here has a lot of experience in this, and he will be able to guide you guys further when it comes to the difference and how to support that. But we will take it to the next level. Digambar is saying that I think prevention is better than cure. So is that correct to observe 90% healthy people are as an opportunity to prevent them from getting disease? Amazing, Digambar. Like this is, see how you have twisted and turned the market. You are saying that disease is only 10%, but 90% of the people, can we consider that as an opportunity to prevent them from getting disease? And that is what is right now also happening. Because of COVID, people have realized this, that prevention is, until then we were postponing it. It was just it was just a good statement that we learned in school. Prevention is better than. Right now, people have started thinking about naturopathy, holistic cure, taking care of yourself consistently, all of that. And this, yes, you're absolutely right, Digambar, that currently in healthcare, what has happened is vitamin has become the painkiller as well, right? People are thinking of prevention as well, and therefore, again, whether your business is vitamin or painkiller depends on your customer segment. It's very important. It depends on your customer segment. Why would I say that? If there is a company called Brooks Brothers. I'm sure the men in the group would have heard about this company called Brooks Brothers. Brooks Brothers is a very famous shirt brand. It's an international shirt brand. And on the Wall Street, there is a store. If you actually buy a white shirt of Brooks Brothers, a plain white, the white shirt that possibly like the one that I'm wearing, it would cost you around 80 to 90,000 rupees. Now imagine 80 to 90,000 rupees for a white shirt. Now I would say that why would someone buy a white shirt for 90,000 rupees? The same white shirt, a very good quality, can come at around say 2,500-3,000 rupees. You will get an amazing quality white shirt. Why would someone pay 90,000 rupees to buy a white shirt? So for me, Brooks Brothers is a vitamin. But the CEO of Morgan Stanley or CEO of JP Morgan or CEO of Goldman Sachs, when he is talking on CNBC at 9 o'clock in the morning, talking about how the markets will move, and he will sit like this, and here you will see a brand BB, Brooks Brothers, right? Now for that particular customer segment, Brooks Brothers shirt is a painkiller for him, because he wants to wear that on CNBC, and that would showcase a particular strength, a particular level, a particular, I would say, stature of a person by just flashing that very small Brooks Brothers brand and white shirt brand on when you are talking to the news channels, the business news channels, or when you are going for some very important meetings. So for the CEOs, that is actually a painkiller, and therefore you can be a painkiller for one particular segment, but you can be a vitamin for other. So you have to always remember why it is so important to think about customers. Very critical to think about customers, because within customers there are, some would find you painkiller, some would find you vitamin. So you have to focus on within those customers who are the ones that are finding you as a painkiller business. So so moving on, guys, now to kind of create a business model. So the first step that we saw is around basically the most important element of the business model, and now we have to actually create a business model. And to create a business model, there is a tool, guys, called as Lean Canvas. Okay, and there is a 20-minute video on Lean Canvas that I'm going to share with you for your reference, in the chat window later. And that Lean Canvas gives us a particular tool to create a very quick snapshot of your idea, to figure out what are the things that are important for your business. What are the core elements of your business that you need to think about. Okay. And before I get into that, I want answers from you. And let's put it on the chat window, guys, that when we think about business, okay, what are the, beyond the points that we have discussed so far, what are the core elements that we need to think about? What are those core things that you need to think about while you are starting the business? What would be the very important building blocks of starting the business, right? And I'm going to make a note of it as you speak, or as you put it on the chat window. I'm going to make a note of it, and I'm going to again put it on the chat window, and let's see, are we able to kind of think through this? Are we able to kind of get to the business model, right? So what would be, when you talk about business, what would you start thinking about? What would you start talking about, right?
So about the product.
Okay, so first let's say product.
And what is the demand in the market? What market want that product must be made, and directly to the end customer.
Sure. So then there is mentioned, Digambar is mentioning customer segment and value proposition.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
One point. Gaurav has mentioned a very good point here, that how
hello,
will
sir.
our success. Yes, go ahead.
So I think customers. What is customers' burning problem?
Sure, which we discussed. So far we discussed that. What more? What more should we talk about? Quality in the market, customer stakeholder, value proposition, product, demand, problem statement, proof of concept, customer satisfaction. Yes. So far now, customer हमने focus किया. और क्या? What more? What is business all about? What is business ultimately all about? Very good.
Marketing, unique marketing.
Right, profit. So how will you make revenue, guys? Okay, how will you make revenue? How will you make profits? That is very critical. And to make revenue and profits, what would you have to put in? What would there be there? There would be certain basic costs, right, that you have to incur to generate that revenue, to generate that profit, right? Anything else that you can think about? Anything else? You know what is the most important element in the business? Without Sorry, guys, there was some issue, internet problem, I guess. Yes, so the make or break of the business is dependent on this one very important thing. Very, very important. Can you think about it? What is the business ultimately dependent on? Whom is the business dependent on?
Product.
Even before that, team. Very nice, right? You
The
as
business model.
founders, who creates the business model, who creates the team, who creates the product? Ultimately, guys, the team becomes very, very, even before customers तो बाद में आएंगे, पहले तो internally you have to create a team, right? And that is where team becomes very, very important element of your business. And all of you have by now mentioned very core elements of starting a business, or what should one consider while you go ahead when you start the business. And that is where I'm going to talk about this particular metric which you can use to kind of create your business model, right? So the first thing that we need to define, and this is a structure, you have to make this. The exercise is that for your own idea, if you get these elements right, if you get these boxes right, you will have a very, very good understanding of your particular business, and you can start. Without this, you will be all running helter skelter, right? So the first thing that we discussed in the morning, right, in the session, is what is the problem that the customer is facing, right? So the left hand side lists down first what are the problems that you are solving, or what are the problems that customers are facing, and who is your customer segment. Dig deeper. If the customer segment is engineering students, for example, write that my customer segment is engineering students. Which kind of engineering students? My customer segment is engineering students who are looking for jobs. Now, possibly all the top tier colleges will not have a problem of jobs. So my customer segment is engineering students who are looking for career opportunities from colleges, possibly where placement is low, right? So you are defining a customer segment very, very clearly, and that is what you have to do in this box. So for this customer segment, what are the problems that they are facing? They don't get companies, they don't get high paying jobs, they don't get technology focused job. Maybe just because of the job, someone has to switch, to another segment. So these are the problems of the customer. So you have identified, you go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the customer segment. Don't just write that everyone is my customer segment. As startups, we don't have the means to address everyone, right? And therefore, you have to start with a niche segment. Always remember, Facebook started off as a product for students on one particular campus. That was the level of niche that they started off with. And that is where the customer segment was defined, target customer segment was defined, and the problems that they were facing. Now, what to solve these problems? What is the solution that you are creating has to be written in the box number 3. So I have identified the customer segment. I've identified customer segment as engineering students who are in their final years looking for jobs from colleges where placement is very, very low. What is their problem? Their problem is they don't get access to jobs, they don't access to relevant jobs, they don't get access to jobs that are high paying. What is the solution that I'm creating? I am creating a technology platform which is specifically meant for final year students, which is like a matching platform for students with corporates. So on one side, final year students who are looking for jobs can register on this platform. On the other side, large corporates who are looking for students, who are looking for people to give jobs in technology are actually registered, and I'm actually doing matchmaking for the two. That is the solution, right? So that is box number 3. Now, this particular part is unique value proposition. What is that single message because of which you are different and worth buying, right? There might be a lot of people who might be doing this, lot of apps, even people like Naukri.com, etc., would be providing the solution that we have said. what is it that will bring the customers to you only, right? What is it that will bring the customers to you only? What is unique about you? What is that unique proposition about you, right? So to give you an example of this, when Domino's started, there were a lot of pizza outlets. There were a lot of people selling pizzas. What did Domino's put as their unique proposition? That hot, fresh pizzas delivered to your doorstep within 30 minutes, or else I'm going to give you free. There were many people who were providing pizzas, but no one was guaranteed that boss 30 मिनट के अंदर fresh pizza आपके घर में पहुंचाऊंगा. And that was the unique selling point of Domino's, right? This was the time when even Swiggy Wiggy कुछ भी नहीं था. तब Domino's आके बोल रहा था कि आपको पिज्जा खाना है, आपको घर पे बैठ के पिज्जा खाना है, आपको फ्रेश हॉट पिज्जा खाना है, 30 मिनट के अंदर मैं आपको पिज्जा डिलीवर करूंगा. So while there were a lot of pizza players in the market, the way Domino's differentiated is by this particular concept. So while there are a lot of people who might be providing the same solution in the market, how are you unique? And that is what you have to bring to the table. Now, the next point is channels. How will you sell your customer, sell your product or service, right? What is the channel that you will use, right? Will you use digital marketing? Will you create a store? Will you tie up with distributors? How will you actually sell the solution to the people? What is a channel? A channel is the link between the product and the customer. How does one take the product to the customer? What is the way in which you take the product to the customer? Will you do it through distributors? And each business will have a different channel, right? If it is a direct to business, if it is a B2C, the channel would be different. If it is a B2B, channel would be different. So the path to customers have to be mentioned properly, right? The bottom two boxes are again very, very important. The costs and the revenue. How will you make revenue? Whether you will sell it as subscription, how much will you price it? How much will you, put as margins? What would be the profitability in the product? All of that you will put it in revenue streams, and you will put the associated costs in this cost structure. So the associated costs will be the cost to acquire customers, your people cost. If you are a technology platform, then hosting costs, distribution costs. Make a detailed note of all the costs. Only then when you will compare the revenue with the cost, you will realize that you are making money, profits or not. Lot of times entrepreneurs launch business, then they realize, array, the amount of money that I'm making and the amount of costs in this business is mismatched. ये धंधा बंद करना पड़ेगा. ये पहले ही आपको सोचना है कि आपका revenue, how will you generate the revenue, how will people pay, and what will be the cost structures for that. Finally, one point mentioned by one of you is how will you measure your success? On a day-to-day basis, it is very important to measure success. There are certain business metrics. Like for Ola, if they have to measure today's success, what would that be? Two simple things. What is the revenue that I made today? What is the number of rides that did today? And what was the average ticket size per ride? With that, I can measure the success, right? So, the exercise is all that you have to do, guys, is fill in this particular canvas. And once you fill this particular canvas, you will be in a very good position to start your business, or your business model will actually be articulated very well, right? So जो हमने पहले discuss किया, customer segment, problem, solution, all of that, unfair, what is your unique about your, why will people buy you, are you a vitamin or painkiller, will be one one problem, solution and unique proposition. And how will you sell is the channel. And obviously revenue and cost structures is very simple. How will you make money and what are the costs involved in actually incurring or running the business, right? And you have to have realistic costs. So rent hoga, electricity hoga, all of that you have to kind of put it. key matrix and unfair advantage, you can leave as of now. It is okay if you don't fill in. But later on, even if you first identify these things, you will be in a very good position to start your venture. And to give you, to give you some guidelines of how does one go about doing this, there is one very good material that I'm going to share. Watch this video and then get on to actually, completing this exercise, right? So this is a very good video, which this is like a homework for you, that you have to watch this 20-minute video. And once you watch this 20-minute video, then you think about whatever has been discussed so far by us, and then you start filling your the canvas that I spoke about, and that is where your idea will get into shape, right? So guys, from the content perspective, that is it from my side, right? This is what I wanted to discuss with you and leave you with certain material for your own for your own thoughts, right? Entrepreneurship, especially at the student level, guys, is fairly difficult, right? It's not very easy. But always remember, it is always good to get into entrepreneurship early on in your life, right? As you start doing jobs after jobs after jobs, you will not be able to move to entrepreneurship very easily. And there are so many examples of successful student entrepreneurs in so many incubation centers across the country today. And given that now incubation ecosystem is there to support you, things are fairly simpler. And therefore, always, look at it as a career option. But measure it properly, go with a plan, prepare for it. Don't just jump into it, right? Jump into it with all the necessary skills required to swim in a very, very rough sea. And only then you will be successful, right? So that's it from my side. I would really like to thank, Professor Kiran Dalele for giving me an opportunity to speak to all of you. Thank you, sir, for inviting me and giving me a platform to speak to young minds. And I would like to thank IEEE and all the associated partners for conducting this, such a beautiful workshop. I was going through the details and how beautifully every element of business for students has been created. It's a fantastic initiative, and I congratulate you for starting this and inviting me. Students, if you have any questions later, you can always connect with the coordinators, and they can connect with me. And happy to mentor you, guide you in this journey of entrepreneurship. Thank you so much.
Thank
Sir?
you. Thank you. Yeah, let's have question answer session.
Yes.
Sir?
Yes.
So only we have to watch the YouTube video that you have given the link.
Yes, you have to watch that, and then you have to fill in this canvas, fill in what is there on the screen. You can take a screenshot of this, or this is available also on, just type on Google as lean canvas for creating a business model, and this will be available. So you have to watch the video. You have to first mull over what we have discussed so far, watch the video, fill in this, and then your business idea will be in a particular shape and form.
Okay, so the plan is after your session is over, this student volunteers will play the videos.
Yes.
And a Canvas PPT format is already kept ready. They'll be distributed it during their activity time.
Perfect. Perfect. Very nice. Very nice.
Any participant wants to highlight certain points? This is live streaming is also going on. Some people are over that side.
Sure.
No problem. Student,
Great.
Student volunteer.
Okay, so thank you so much, all of you, and all the best. I am going to now, sir, should I
Just,
drop off?
just 2 minutes. I'll
Yeah,
just
yeah.
call. Yeah. Just a minute. Sakina, madam.
Yes, sir.
Till then, anyone has any questions, happy to answer.
Can you call the students? Chinmay.
There is one question which is a very important question which I want to address is how to find out a mentor, right? Very good question. How does one go about finding the mentor, right? I would say there are 2-3 ways of finding a mentor. One very good way is connect with an incubation center. Always remember, as a student, if you want to start a business, whether your institution has the incubator or not is not the question. There are, in your city, there will be incubators. Always get associated with an incubator. Find who is the incubator, which is the incubator in your city, and talk to them. Because incubator has network of mentors, network of professionals, network of support system is already there. The playbook is ready with the incubator, and you can actually get a lot of value add to incubators. All incubators have a laundry list of mentors already onboarded, so you don't have to go about finding which mentor should I talk to. So one is, I would strongly recommend, when one wants to go for a startup at this stage, go for an incubation center. And second is, whatever help you need, connect with people actively on LinkedIn. Even as a student, start using LinkedIn. I have found very good people and mentors on LinkedIn, right? So if I want help in marketing, I would find out who are the good guys in marketing in LinkedIn. I would do some search and I would connect with them and I would request for a meeting, right? So these are the 2 ways that you can use. The best way is connecting through the incubation center, right? Great. If there are no further questions, yeah.
Sir, nowadays food are made with chemicals, and in ancient times or in for last few years, the food are more energetic to eat, and it is very it is very useful to us.
Right.
So, sir, now there is any company which makes food without chemicals and all.
Totally, it's a very good opportunity, very big opportunity, that chemical-free, organic, product-based food is becoming a big trend, and customers are moving for that. And there are a lot of small players that have come in, but this will be a very big opportunity going forward. In terms of taking it to the next level, right? There is one more question coming up, that what do mentors charge fee? What is the motivating factor for them to support startup? Very good question. Initially, they don't charge fees. It is more of a pro bono. But what mentors take, or what you can do, is you can give them a small equity percentage in your companies, right? Very small ownership in the company, in like single digit ownership to the mentors, so that they are aligned. But they don't charge typically fees. And if you are going through an incubation center takes care of that, for you. So they support. But as a motivating factor, they do take some equity stake so that they are aligned to this entire process. Great. So thank you so much, everyone. It was a pleasure. Over to you. Thank you.
Just a minute.
Thank you, sir.
Chinmay?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for an engaging and edifying session, sir. On behalf of the IEEE Bombay section and the entire organizing team, we express our heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Vikrant Potnis for his valuable time and insightful presence.
We will now have a break till 11:30 a.m., post which we will resume for the day. Thank you.
Okay, bye. Thank you so much. All the best, guys.
Thank you so much, Vikrant sir, for being with us. Thank you so much.
Sir?
Chinmay?
Yes.
Play the video suggested by Vikrant Potnis. See the message I dropped at you. He has recommended a video. Play that video on the chat.
Okay. Unfortunately, we are having audio issues, so I've stopped the video.
Sir, I'll share my screen and show your videos. Hello.
Yes, Srishti, you can.
Okay, sir.
Sir, this is the PPT. You want me to show the PPT also, right? Sir, pardon? Sir,
So one video needs to be shown. After that, I think we can.
Today I'm going to show you how to create your initial business model canvas in 20 minutes. You might be wondering why just 20 minutes. After all, a business model is a pretty complicated and critical thing to get right. Surely you should spend a lot more time on this. But here's the thing, the perfect plan is a myth. Studies have shown that most successful companies report having drastically changed their original plans along the way. Companies like Groupon, PayPal, Flickr are all examples of this. What really separates successful products from those that don't make it isn't necessarily starting with a perfect plan, but finding a plan that works before running out of resources. The way you do that isn't through rhetorical reasoning on a whiteboard in pursuit of that perfect plan, but rather through empirical testing, getting outside the building and stress testing and then refining your plan. Time is the scarcest resource in a startup, which is why it is important to time box your initial canvas so you don't fall into the analysis paralysis trap. I find that 20 minutes is enough time for the first pass. Perfection is not the goal here, but rather the goal is to sketch or baseline a snapshot of your current thinking. With that out of the way, let's get started. If you haven't done this already, head on over to leancanvas.com and click the Create Your Canvas button to sign up for a free account. After creating your account, you will be prompted to name your first canvas. I like to name my canvases by the customer segment they address because I find that the customer segment box drives the rest of the canvas. You probably already have an inkling of possible customers your product addresses in your head, but the first step is splitting these broad customer segments into even smaller verticals. Each of these vertical segments potentially represents a different business model and should ideally have its own canvas. This is sometimes hard to see, so it might help to consider an example. This is an actual product I built in my last company. Cloudflare was a service that helped people share lots of photos and videos easily with each other. The really broad category here was anyone that shares lots of photos and videos. While I would have loved to service that market, it's not specific enough. When you try to market to everyone, especially as a startup, you end up marketing to no one. Down below, you'll see a number of more specific and possible customer segments that I then created. Sometimes the split won't be perfect. For instance, photographers, videographers, and graphic designers may share enough common attributes to be lumped together as a creative segment. I wouldn't worry too much about that right now. The most important thing, though, is not going too broad, like using the anyone that shares lots of photos and videos, or going too narrow, where you shrink the market size too much. The next step is to pick your strongest customer segment for your canvas. This might be one you most want to service, know the most about, or have the strongest channel to reach. Whatever your reasons, start with a single customer segment and use that as the name of your canvas. For the Cloudflare product, I decided to use parents as my first customer segment, mostly because I had recently become a parent around that time frame and observed several problems that I was motivated to explore. After doing this, you should then see the canvas screen. You can simply click in any of the boxes to start typing. The blue numbers indicate a suggested order for traversing the canvas. This order is only a recommendation. Even I'm going to deviate from it slightly in this video based on a newer flow I have been more recently using. For the rest of the video, I'm going to walk the canvas and show you how to fill each section using the Cloudflare product as a concrete example you can reference. It is most effective to complete your canvas as I cover each section while the content is still fresh in your mind, so I'll have you pause the video after each section before moving on. So my preferred flow these days is to complete the canvas in a set of blocks. The first block that I like to tackle is the problem customer segment quadrant. So much of your business model is dependent on the proper identification of customers and their problems that a solid footing here creates a very strong foundation for the rest of your canvas. You've already identified your main customer segment from earlier, which goes in the customer segment box. It's common to have multiple participants or user roles in your business model. I would next go ahead and list all of them out here, but you should distinguish between customers and users when you do so. That distinction is pretty simple. Customers pay you and your users do not. For most products, that distinction is also pretty straightforward. In a software as a service product, for instance, you attract leads or users and aim to convert some or all of them into paying customers. In a multi-sided business like the one driven by advertising, for example, Google search, you have users who create value through participation that you then monetize through ads. Here, the advertisers are your customers and the users are those that are doing searches. For these types of products, I recommend keeping both users and customers on a single canvas. Marketplace businesses, however, are a lot more complicated. Here, you often have two or more parties that simultaneously work to create value. Classic examples are eBay, Airbnb, where you need both buyers and sellers to make the business work. Additionally, each party often has a different incentive, channel, and other elements on the canvas that you also need to understand. So for these types of businesses, I recommend creating a separate canvas for each party involved. As a slight aside, there is a hashtag feature in the Lean Canvas tool that lets you visually group different customer segments on the same canvas. In the screenshot above, you'll notice different colors for buyers and sellers on the canvas based on the hashtags that are reused in multiple sections. This is a nice feature that lets you quickly keep all your customer segments on a single canvas and toggle them on and off. But if you're more comfortable creating separate canvases, do that instead. Now it's time to get even more specific with your customer segments and further narrow them down into early adopters. Early adopters are those people that need your product the most, and the early success of your business model is going to be highly dependent on how well you can define and qualify your early adopters. While we all would like to build a product like Facebook that is used by practically everyone on the planet, even Facebook started with a very specific early adopter, which happened to be a college student, and not just any college student, but a college student on the Harvard campus. Here's the customer segment box for the Cloudflare product. I have listed parents as the primary customer and their family and friends as viewers. Down below, I further qualified my early adopters to be parents with younger kids because I felt that they would need my product more than parents with older kids. Pause the video here and complete your customer segment box before moving on. With your customer segments and early adopters defined, we'll now move on to the problem box. Outline the top 3 problems your product addresses for this early adopter. You can have less than 3 problems, but try not to list more than 3. A helpful technique for uncovering good problems at this stage is using a 5 whys. You start with a customer problem, which is usually a surface problem or symptom. You then ask yourself why this is a problem, and do this 5 times, each time refining the list of problems till you have a list of deeper problems that you can put on your canvas. Here's an example of this technique applied to the Cloudflare product. Another useful technique is using the job to be done concept popularized by Clayton Christensen. The basic idea here is that customers hire your product to get a job done. This is often something they have already been trying to do, but probably unsuccessfully. Once you correctly identify that job, you're in a much better position to identify underlying problems and eventually define a solution for that. This idea also ties nicely into the next quadrant, where you ask yourself how your early adopters solve these problems today. Here, you want to be able to describe your customer's current reality. What existing solutions or alternatives are they using today to get the job done? Doing nothing, by the way, is also an alternative. As we'll see shortly, this information will be invaluable in properly positioning and pricing your product. Here is my filled out problem box for the Cloudflare product. You'll see a list of 3 top problems I picked from the earlier 5 whys analysis, along with a list of possible existing alternatives parents use for photo and video sharing. Pause the video here and complete your problem box before moving on. The next set of blocks I like to tackle is the combination of your solution, your unique value proposition, and revenue streams. These three things taken together help to define your offer or minimum viable product, which I'll define here in a second. The solution box is the one we entrepreneurs are most in love with because we love to build cool stuff. But your solution isn't usually what's riskiest on the canvas. Instead of falling in love with your solution, embrace the concept of a minimum viable product. The minimum viable product is the smallest solution you can build that still delivers customer value. That is, it still solves a specific problem and ideally also captures some of that value, which is just a fancy way of saying it gets you paid. Until you gain a deep understanding of your customers and their problems, you cannot really define the right solution. That said, I'm sure you have an inkling of what you'd like to build anyway, so let's list those, but still constrain them around the top 3 problems you listed earlier. So for each problems that you listed earlier, briefly outline how you envision solving them using your solution. Here is my filled out solution box for the Cloudfire product. I envision solving these problems with software and list the top 3 features I would need to include in my minimum viable product. Again, pause the video here and complete your solution box before moving on. Next, we turn to the unique value proposition. Not only is this one of the hardest things to get right, but it's also the most critical, at least initially. When you first introduce a product, the initial battle is all about getting noticed by customers. It's getting a chance to have a meaningful dialogue with a prospect. You get this chance by making a compelling offer or promise represented by your unique value proposition. The good news is that like everything else on your canvas, your unique value proposition is also a guess or hypothesis. You'll have lots of opportunity to test and refine it later. Here are some techniques for getting started. Your unique value proposition is derived from the intersection of your problem and your solution. So craft your unique value proposition around your number 1 problem. And instead of just thinking in terms of top features and benefits, think in terms of your finished story benefit. Your finished story benefit is the value a customer derives after using your product. So if you have a job board service, for instance, your unique value proposition isn't the cool resume building feature you have, but rather the promise of helping job seekers find their dream job. Next, avoid the use of empty words like simple, fast, or easy. Yes, I know Apple uses these all the time, but you are not Apple. They can get away with it because they have built a reputation and brand around simplicity. You haven't and need to be a lot more specific with your unique value proposition. Here's a formula by way of Dane Maxwell for creating a compelling unique value proposition that uses 3 fragments. The first is the end result the customer wants, which is like the finished story benefit. The next is constraining that with a specific period of time when they would see these results. And then finally, you want to address any objections they might have. The second and third items in the formula are great if you can fit them into your unique value proposition without sounding overly salesy. Otherwise, leave them out. Down below are several examples of unique value propositions that use a finished story benefit with some or all of these elements. And finally, it's a good exercise to work on your high concept pitch. The high concept pitch is something Hollywood producers use all the time to distill the script of a new movie they are pitching into a memorable soundbite. So for instance, instead of describing the movie Aliens, they might just say it's like the movie Jaws, only in space. You can do the same thing with products. For example, when YouTube first launched, the founders were describing it as Flickr for videos. It's important to recognize that the high concept pitch is not a unique value proposition. It's not something you'd put on your landing page, but it is valuable nonetheless. It's valuable for helping spreading the meme of your product by word of mouth. Here is my filled out unique value proposition for the Cloudfire product. You'll see a couple of unique value propositions here, along with a simple high level concept. Pause the video here and complete your unique value proposition box before continuing on. Next, we're going to cover your revenue streams or pricing box. At first glance, this might seem a little out of place since we have mostly been considering aspects around your solution. But pricing is very much part of your solution. It's very much part of your product. I often use an example to illustrate this. Imagine you have 2 bottles of water in front of you. One is priced at $1 and the other at $3. Which one do you think is better? Even though both bottles would probably be indistinguishable in a blind taste test, here price alone has the power to define the product in your mind. The next question, Which bottled water would you pick? Not only is price a part of your product, but it also determines the customers you attract. In the case of bottled water, we know markets exist at both price points, but the customers who routinely buy $3 bottled water are different from those that would prefer the $1 bottle. Pricing is often considered more art than science and can seem pretty daunting, but there are some simple techniques for getting you started. I often see entrepreneurs doing cost-based pricing versus value-based pricing, which is a mistake. Remember, customers hire your product to get a job done. When they view your product, they naturally compare it against their existing alternatives, not what it costs you to deliver your solution. These alternatives serve as price anchors in your customers' minds. That is why it is so important to understand these existing alternatives and then position your solution against them. I'm also a big proponent of keeping your pricing as simple as possible, at least at the beginning. Resist the urge to create multiple pricing plans at this point. Rather, pick a price aimed at your early adopters and keep their existing alternatives in mind. In the case of a multi-sided business model, even though you aren't directly charging your users, you are still building an asset. The challenge with these business models is that this asset isn't worth anything until you pass a certain threshold or tipping point. Find out what that tipping point is and get some ballpark numbers on the value of that asset by looking at comparable advertising rates and/or acquisitions depending on the type of business you are building. Here is my filled out revenue streams box for the Cloudfire product. I use my existing alternatives as anchors, which range from $0 with Facebook all the way to $99 for the Apple Mobile Me service. I use these alternatives to come up with my starting price of $49 a year. Pause the video here and complete your revenue stream box before moving on. Next, we're going to cover channels or your path to customers. Your channels or path to customers are one of the more riskier items on your canvas. You might be able to identify a problem worth solving, build out a solution, and even get a small group of customers to derive value from it. But if you can't get your product in front of enough customers, none of that might matter. Channels aren't something to defer to later, but rather something you should start building and testing from day one. The good news is that you don't need to build scalable channels from day one. It's okay to start with a handful of outbound channels to jumpstart your learning first. Here are some possible outbound channel suggestions that might help. At the same time, take a stab at identifying where your scalable channels might come from. These typically take time to build, so it helps to think about them now versus later. Here's a list of some possible scalable channels that you might be able to employ later on. Now here's my filled out channels box for the Cloudfire product. You'll find a combination of outbound and inbound channels listed here. Pause the video here and complete your channels box before moving on. Now we're going to move on to how you measure success using key metrics. Key metrics represent the key numbers that tell you how your business is doing. A startup is inherently chaotic, but at any given point in time, there are only a few key actions or metrics that matter. These will change as your product moves through various stages, but at this point in time, I'd like you to identify two key metrics. The first is identifying the key customer action that drives value in your product. In other words, ask yourself, what key activity would you use to measure your value proposition? So for example, if you were building a blogging platform, publishing a blog post would be the key activity. For Twitter, posting a tweet is a key activity. The second key metric is stating your success metric for your product. What would you need to achieve to make this product worthwhile? It could be a revenue target, like building a $10 million business or a $100 million business. It could be having some impact on the world, or it could be something else altogether. Here is my filled out key metrics box for the Cloudfire product. My key activity is based around sharing. If a parent doesn't routinely share their photos and videos with others, chances are they will lose interest and not keep paying for the product. My success metric for Cloudfire was building a $5 million business, which roughly translated to acquiring 100,000 paying customers. Pause the video here and complete your key metrics box before moving on. We're at the home stretch now. After getting hit with a killer idea and convincing yourself it's worth pursuing, the next thing that should be keeping you up at night is how you build enough runway for your product. We'll use this section to do some ballpark sizing of your business model and estimate scope and feasibility of implementing it. Start by outlining your fixed and variable costs, things like people, servers, and other resources you will need to implement this business model. It's impossible to be totally accurate at this stage because a lot of it will change with time. It does help to consider a shorter horizon like a break-even point and use your pricing and cost structure to come up with the number of customers you would need to break even. And then go all the way. Calculate how many customers you would need to realize your metric for success from earlier. Again, the point is not accuracy, but ballpark sizing for establishing if you have a problem worth solving on your hands. Here is my filled out cost structure box for the Cloudfire product. Pause the video here and complete your cost structure box and do a similar sizing estimate. And now the final box, the unfair advantage. Unfair advantage is also sometimes called competitive advantage or barriers to entry on a business plan. It essentially describes how you'll defend against competitive attacks. Most first-time entrepreneurs don't completely understand what constitutes an unfair advantage and often list things that aren't. One of the most commonly cited unfair advantage is being first to market. Take a look at these companies. None of them were first movers in their markets, but fast followers. One could actually argue that being first to market can be a disadvantage because the burden of learning and marketing a new product is all on the first mover. Here are other things commonly cited on business plans. All of these things, while important, don't create a sustainable unfair advantage on their own. So what is a real unfair advantage? I subscribe to a simple definition put forward by Jason Cohen, who is currently the founder of WP Engine and also writes the popular A Smart Bear blog. His definition is that a real unfair advantage is something that cannot be easily copied or bought. So let's list out some examples of some real unfair advantages. Bad news is that you probably didn't see an unfair advantage that applies to you today. The good news is that that's okay. Even Facebook didn't really have an unfair advantage when they started. They were number 11 or 12 in building a social network, but they still managed to build the largest social network on the planet, which has now become their unfair advantage. The more important thing is to have an unfair advantage story. Unlike the other boxes on the canvas, the unfair advantage is unfortunately not one you decide to test one day. If and when you start getting some traction with your product, your unfair advantage will be tested by competition and copycats. You may also not have a readily identifiable unfair advantage today. Rather than listing something weak and clearly not an unfair advantage, leave this section blank. Some unfair advantages are revealed over time, like in the case of Zappos. Having a blank box staring back at you also serves as a constant reminder to keep looking for one. Here is my filled out unfair advantage box for the Cloudfire product. Since it's targeted at a very specific and emotional niche, I envision building differentiation over time by fostering a strong sense of community among my customers. Pause the video here and complete your unfair advantage box. So there you have it. If you followed along, you should have captured your first business model. Congratulations. Next time, I'll cover how to bulletproof this business model from here and show you how to start the process of stress testing your plan A. Until then, take care.
Hello.